Hello again. It is the Brain Smasher coming at you live from the Situation Room. I like that new joke. Today, I'm here to bring you my first ever collection video. I have a very expansive collection of Immortal. Mind you, my Immortal Collection is mostly focused on the first 4 albums because I can't really stand any of the albums after the first 4. So we'll mainly talk about those, and I have multiple copies of those albums here and other stuff. The reason I don't really go after those first 4 albums mainly is because my favorite guitar player in all of metal, Demonaz, came down with, the wrist thing, carpal tunnel, because he played guitar so fucking fast for so many years. Actually, 6 short years. I never really thought about this. All of these albums, at least the first 4, came out between 1991 and 1997. So in 6 short years, we're going to cover a lot of different things here in the evolution of what, I pretty much would say they're my favorite black metal band based on these first 4 records. Now, just a little anecdote before we get started. When I first read that Demonaz had come down with carpal tunnel and that he wouldn't be playing on the next Immortal album back after Blizzard Beast had just blown poop out of my ass sideways, I just freaked out. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't taking it very well. Anyways, at that time I was in college, and at that time I was very active on a chat room on blackmetal.com, if you'll remember that. And through that chat room I met this guy who claimed to have connections to people like Hellhammer and Mortis and Immortal and all these guys, and I was like, damn, I didn't believe him. Anyways, for some reason, he offered me both Mortis's phone number and Demonaz's phone number. Now, I don't know if this was like before, it wasn't before I found out about this carpal tunnel thing, but anyway, I had Mortis's and Demonaz's phone number for the longest time. Wasn't sure if I believed it, wasn't sure if I actually wanted to call him and find out, but once I heard this news, after sitting on these phone numbers for a while, I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to call Demonaz and find out what's going on. So I wound up and did it. I called Demonaz and I was like, hey, Demonaz? He's like, oh, yes. By the way, we're listening to Pure Holocaust anyways. So he answers the phone. He's like, yeah, I guess, he's probably not used to answering the phone. It's Demonaz. But anyways, so I was like, okay, you don't know me. I'm just a super huge fan from Iowa. You ever heard of Iowa? He's like, yes, Iowa. I still don't believe him to this day, but such a nice guy for pretending that he has heard of Iowa. Anyways, I was like, so what's going on with this carpal tunnel? You're not playing on the new album? He's like, well, yeah, I gave an interview where we announced that I wasn't going to be playing on the new record and that Abath has taken over guitar duties, but I've found treatment. Things are going good. I'm back to playing guitar for about 8 hours a day. I will be playing on the new album. Everything's going to be great. I'm so glad to give you the good news. And I was just fucking blown away. I couldn't believe it. I don't know how this misunderstanding had happened or whatever. I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that this wasn't true. It had bummed me out so bad. And can you imagine what better news than your favorite guitar player on the phone telling you, no, don't worry about it, man. I'll be playing on the next record. Everything's fine. So I was just fucking overjoyed. I wound up talking to Demonaz on the phone for like 2 hours. It was the funniest thing. We talked about metal, of course, life in Norway, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, first of all, I couldn't believe this fucking guy had Immortal or Demonaz's phone number, right? And then I called it and it was legit, and that he was a super nice guy and talked to me for 2 hours on the phone. Anyway, great, just life-affirming moment in my fandom of this band. So, I was so stoked to hear At the Heart of Winter come out, and imagine my disappointment when I hear At the Heart of Winter. Now, we can go into semantics about how good of an album that album actually is, but it is undeniably very different from the first 4, and especially Blizzard Beasts, the one before it. So, I just fucking couldn't handle it. I've always had a hard time listening to At the Heart of Winter because of that. And so, If some other band had released that album, maybe if the guitar playing wasn't so fucking sloppy, I would be able to stomach it. It's not a bad album, but man, I have such a fucking beef with that album because of that little story. Anyway, so let's get started. From 1991, they first released this self-titled 7-inch. Now, I've taken this out and shown it in a previous video where I showed off 7 inches, and we're kind of strapped for time here, so I'm not going to go into this too deeply, but there's really not much to look at other than the photo on the back and this. Now, I don't know the limitation on this. I'm sure it's not more than 1,000 copies. Listenable Records put it out in 1991. So it has 3 songs: Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism, which is actually just an intro on here, Unholy Forces of Evil, and The Cold Winds of Funeral Frost. Actually, you know what? I fucked up. That is the second release from Immortal. The first one I don't have. However, I do have a bootleg version of it. This is not really the cover of it all. It actually came out on cassette with this drawing, which was drawn by Dead from Mayhem. And the confusing thing about it was that this original release was called Immortal, technically, and this was also called Immortal. So, and they had different songs on them, totally different songs. In fact, the material on here is quite death metal-y in style. And even to go back a little bit further, the previous band that preceded Immortal, that had both Demonaz and Abath and Jorn from Hades on drums, was called Amputation, and their material sounds quite a bit like this very first Immortal release. And I have Amputation's material on this weird reissue, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I don't know what order to go in really with these 3. We'll just get them out of the way, all 3. So this is a bootleg of the first Immortal release, kind of death metal-y. I don't know, this is some bootleg. I don't know. It's kind of cool to have them, like on a tangible format. It's cool to have them on vinyl. So that's kind of cool. Talk about this one. Okay, so this is fucking weird, and it's pretty cool actually. The disc is not in it. Okay, here it is. So this is actually a CD that comes in a 7-inch case, and you know what? This is limited to 1,000 copies in 2009. So I wouldn't be surprised if you can still pick this up. And I would recommend you do so if you're a big Immortal fan. It's really weird, but the stuff on it, the material on it is kind of cool. I don't know where they came up with this shit, but it's not really about the artwork. Anyways, it's got a poster that comes with it. Now, talk about going from, the early days of Immortal to the At the Heart of Winter Times. It's just a really convoluted mess, but then on the back you've got the cover of one of the Amputation demos as a small poster. And then here's a live photo. And there's actually an interview in the pages of this thing. And I can't quite remember how it comes apart. Anyways, so it unfolds. There's stickers and a bunch of other shit in here. Old pictures. All kinds of kind of cool shit, honestly. This is just like a little hype thing, I guess. Copy certification. I don't know. There's a hand numbering thing. This is copy 948 of 1,000. And then this was like a sleeve that the disc came in, which was supposed to be glued inside of that. Anyway, I just took the disc out, and this is it. This artwork fucking sucks. But it's kind of a cool release. So it has, like I said, the first 2 Immortal releases, those 2 7-inches. And then it has the 2 Amputation demos, which were from 1989 and 1990. And then it has 2 live tracks, Battles in the North and Damned in Black, and those were, I guess it doesn't say when they were recorded, but then if you put this disc into your computer, it has an entire live show from the Inferno Festival in 2003. So if you can pick this up, if you find that interesting, I do recommend doing so, especially if you're a collector of this kind of stuff. I'm going to put that back. It's hard to put back together. Anyway, so that brings us to the debut, Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. This album definitely makes sense in a progression from that first early material, but talk about a forward-thinking album. talk about just foreshadowing what so much of black metal would become. You know, this album is quite overlooked because Immortal, I think, is mostly known for being like demonic and speedy. But this album is a lot more laid back, a lot more. There's a lot more variety in the instrumentation. In fact, the last song on here, Perfect Vision of the Rising Northland, it just has a lot of interesting instrumentation and orchestration going on that you didn't see happening in black metal in the year 1994. Now, this version came out on Hellion Records in 1994, a year after the original album was released. This is, I guess, a South American version, and I wasn't able to find a limitation on this copy of it. But honestly, it wasn't too expensive at the time I bought it, and it still isn't from just having looked. Not much to look at here, but yeah, this is the original LP version. Oh, not bad. And then we have, I'll go ahead and take this out of the sleeve, the picture disc version. This was released in 1997 by Osmos. Oh, the back of this is so ugly. Ugh, that just looks like shit. So yeah, the original was black and white. So this was released in 97. This was limited to 300 copies. And in 1997, the first 4 albums were reissued, I think maybe alongside Blizzard Beasts. So I picked all of those up back in the day. Other versions of that album, it was really hard to prepare for this and figure out like what stacks I want to do, what and where. I showed these in a couple of the videos. So this is my sealed copy of Diabolical, and this is my unsealed copy. And I found these at a grocery store for 50 cents a piece. Here we have 2 similar looking versions. However, this is the JL America Turbo USA version. And this other one is a straight Osmos version. So, why do I have 2 versions? I don't know. I'm kind of stupid about early Immortal stuff, as you will see. So, yeah, that album is great. It seemed to break a lot of ground for what now could be seen as traditional mid-90s black metal. And then they did something, I think, completely different. And I honestly, still to this day, wonder where the influence came from to make them go so speedy, so brutal, and just violent, as they did on this album, Pure Holocaust. So nothing fancy, this is just a CD version. I have 2 copies for some reason. No, you can't buy it. Then I have the LP version. Now I want to say this is limited to 1,000 copies. Like I said, it came out in '93. And this is in decent shape. There's kind of a ring tear at the top. This goes for a lot of money these days. Nothing pretty. God, on these old records, the sides of these are so sharp because, you know, that wasn't 180 gram like everything is nowadays. But the edges of them are so fucking sharp. But yeah, so, like, they totally went a different direction. And a lot of people don't know, Abath actually played drums on this album. They recorded the album with him on drums, Demon has a guitar, and then Eric came along and joined and played a couple of tours with them. But I've been able to dig up some old interviews where Abath admitted to having played drums on this album, and I believe it because Abath is credited as playing drums on the next album, Battles in the North, which came out in 1996. And so this was the band as a duo. I never quite heard why Eric left Immortal. You know, they toured with him with, actually the tour poster is right up there, Rotting Christ and Blasphemy in '93 on the Fuck Christ tour. It's not an original tour poster, but it's a printout of it. So this is the album that I have the most versions of for sure. So like this album, musically speaking, it takes that violent and super speedy, icy, grim sort of style, and I think diversifies it a little bit more. They really find their character and personality with this stuff. The riffing is some of the most unique riffing I have ever heard in black metal to this day. It doesn't rely whatsoever on atmosphere. Really, I think the music paired with Pitten's production. I had always been calling the producer of these albums Python until I saw Burzum's videos a couple of weeks ago, and he was calling him Peyton. I don't know if he's just being Burzum or what, but I've been trying to remember to call him Peyton since then. I've always wondered about that. So, yeah, one of my favorite albums, if not my favorite black metal record. Battles in the North. Okay, so that's just the standard jewel case version of it. Next, I have a digipack version of it, and the logo is embossed, and so is the album title. Now, I wouldn't make a big deal out of it, but there is a version of this that is unembossed, and I don't have it. I'm kind of looking for it. But honestly, after so many years of having this version, I don't even play this version that much, so I wouldn't want to pay much for the unembossed version because it's such a slight difference. Anyway, so there's that version. And then they issued, Osmos issued a version, here it is, the Blue Box Edition. Now this has, as bonus tracks, the second 7-inch that I showed you a minute ago. And then it has this awesome cover art, which is also on the back. There's the inside of it. And then on the inside, I really like this, is cool. That painting that's on the cover, it just fits the style of the band so much. So then you have these band photos, and I love these photos. You don't see these very often elsewhere. And then it folds again, and then you've got this, the cover with the logo, and then a little quote in gold foil at the bottom. Now I want to say this was limited to 1,000 copies, and yeah, that's another cool version of it. Now I don't have any cassette versions. In fact, the only Immortal cassettes I have are the two that I showed you already. One more version. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay. So then this is a promo version of Battles in the North, and this is the original album cover that was intended to be used, but they decided to scrap it. Really nothing on the back to look at, but the disc is a lot different. Got the flag of Norway on there. It's funny, I don't know if you can see this, but look at tracks. This is so fucked up. So on the LP version, the song, the track list was out of order. One of the things that's like notorious for Immortal and for Osmos is fucking misspellings and just tons of clerical errors and track lists being out of order and stuff. But look at tracks 1 and 10 on here. Track 1, it says Battles in the North intro, and then it says track 1, Battles in the North, and then at the bottom it says track 10, and then track 10. Fucking nuts. Anyways, I saw somebody on a forum the other day asking about this version of it. I don't know how limited it is. I imagine maybe 800 or 1,000. See if you can see them in there. It's really cool. They're way back in there. But anyways, some people think that this version sounds different than what wound up getting released because it was like a pre-release. But honestly, I just put them in a few minutes ago and checked them out, and I couldn't really tell any difference. If anything, it was maybe a little bit louder. Okay, so then... Actually, I kind of skipped over this. So I had my buddy Ron, he ripped the vinyls that I showed earlier, Pure Holocaust and Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism, onto CDR so that I can listen to them on CD, but pretend I'm listening to vinyl. So it's got kind of like the pops and the hisses and the frequencies that you would hear on a vinyl. I'm getting it scattered right here. Okay, so I think this is, I don't really know what year this was recorded, but I want to say it was on the Pure Holocaust tour, and you can hear a couple of songs from Battles in the North. So this would have to be around 93, maybe 94 and 5. This sounds like complete shit. It's live in Zandam. It came out, okay, here we go, June 10th, 1994, so I wasn't too far off there. It came out on this label, Nordic Empire 13. Now, if you look up this label, it's nothing but a bootleg label. I'm pretty sure this is all they actually released. So they go in saying that it's number 13. I thought that was always funny. But yeah, this sounds like complete and utter dog shit, but the collector in me had to have it. So next, what do I got? Well, there's this. This is another CD. It's a vinyl rip of the 7-inch and Battles in the North and Blizzard Beasts. How about some shirts? These aren't all the shirts that I have, but these are just the ones that I could find when I was getting ready for this video. So this one is from Blizzard Beasts. Nice, cool painting of a bath and a raven there with the logo. And then it says, in the Nebula Ravens winter, as winds are known from where they blow. That's it. Now I had another shirt from the Blizzard Beasts album, and it got torn to fucking shreds. It just had the album cover on the front of it, but it was just a total piece of shit. It was printed on the thinnest, crappiest fucking shirt. I guess this would also be a Blizzard Beasts shirt. Yeah, it says Blizzard Beasts on it. Man, I haven't worn this thing in a really long time. The back of it just has some more lyrics and a pentagram. I really wish this fit. And then this one. So this was, oh god, I've worn the shit out of this thing. So this is a bootleg that I had made. A friend of mine bought the actual version of it and got in touch with a screen printer out in Boston and had copies of this thing made. This thing is called like the Shepherd shirt, I want to say, but it came out in like 93. Okay, let's see. Next, oh, you know what? I missed the Pure Holocaust picture disc. So this also came out in 97, 98, I want to say, along with the other ones, limited to 300. I never liked this stupid artwork on here, but if you look at all the copies of Pure Holocaust, there's no other artwork. There's just that one band photo. That's it. All black. Other than that. So, where am I? Battles in the North, I guess. So, here is the, I guess, the official version of the picture disc that came out in, yeah, this is the one that came out in 98. Also limited to 300. Now, I have this version, and the jury is still out on the legitimacy of this thing. I think that the sticker, it kind of looks like shit, kind of looks bootleggy, but I don't know. So like another thing that makes this kind of seem legit is how fucked up it is, because there's so many different versions of Battles in the North that have stupid fucking clerical errors on it. But anyways, the color mainly is what sucks on this fucking thing. Their skin is blue. The back is even worse. Get ready. Look at this thing. I've read both that this is a bootleg and it's official, so I really don't know. But I can tell you what, looking at it, it's a piece of shit. I didn't pay much money for it, but I just had to have it. And then look at how stupid it is. The album title here is just cut off. So they were like, man, we can put it up there. Cut it off twice. Pretty shitty. And then we have the LP version. Now this is the album that I have paid the most money for in my collection. I wouldn't say, it isn't the most valuable one, but I paid a stupid amount of money for this on eBay many years ago. Now this isn't the clear version like you may be thinking. The clear version is limited to 300 copies. And like since this came out in 1995, you can imagine that vinyl wasn't really hot back then, so not many copies of these things were produced. Careful with my baby. I fucking love this guy's riffs so much. But yeah, so the track list on here, totally fucking out of order. Thanks, Osmos. You know what? I actually met hair from Osmos one time at Metal Fest in '99 or something, and I was friends with Pat from Redstream at the time, and he was like, "Oh, hey Ben, Herva here from Osmos," and I was like, "Whoa, holy shit, Osmos! I've got like all your releases. Have you met Immortal?" And he was like, "Immortal? No." Anyway, so I was there passing out demos for a friend of mine's band. I offered him a copy of the demo, and he was like, "No, thank you." Okay, I don't know. He just rubbed me the fucking wrong way. I'm sure you've met Immortal. This was like 1998 or something. Surely you've released, countless albums. They've toured to France, obviously, and you've never met them. Okay, guys. I guess before we get into the next album, I've also got some video bootlegs. This is something real to look at. Live in '93 in Bergamo, Holland, and then live in Lobnitz, Germany in '94. As far as I know, these aren't, or are they? I don't think they're on YouTube. And another thing I got, this is so weird. This is Immortal Rarities. Now, nothing to look at, but I got this from one of the members of Blasphemy. I can't remember which one, but it has, I guess, behind the scenes footage from the filming of the video from the first album that everybody makes fun of because Armageddon was wearing a witch hat and they're doing all those funny moves, Anyway, so there's an extended version of the video from that where you can see them like putting on makeup and getting ready to film that video. It's really funny. And then there's some really strange other footage on here, like some interspersed live footage, just some really strange stuff. And then there's a couple of clips from the, I can't remember. I know they did like a professional video for that tour, the Fuck Christ tour, and the video is really fucking excellent. And there's a DVD floating around from the Impaled Nazarene, Rotting Christ, Blasphemy, and Immortal show on there. Trying to think of, okay, yeah, so that's pretty much all that's on that. So next, they released Blizzard Beasts, and I fucking love this album. And honestly, I was thinking about it, and Demonaz actually agreed with me. He said that Morbid Angel was a big influence for the guitar playing on this album. And after he said that, I went back and I was like, God, that sounds crazy. So I went and listened to it, and I was like, and I still to this day, like, if you think about it, if you take away like the iciness and the grimness that Immortal really exudes in their personality, the riffing and just like the tempo and how they're just constantly going, just, I don't know, tumultuous riffs, if you will. I really think that makes sense, where these riffs are just really memorable. They are not quite melodic. Like I never really thought of Morbid Angel as a melodic band. They just have great riff structures like this album does. So anyways, it was an interesting comparison that I never expected to make sense in my head until Demonaz actually told me that that's what he was hearing, I guess. So a lot of great songs on here: Nectambulant, Battlefields, Mountains of Might. Frost Demon Storm is just a fucking brutal rager. This is limited to 1,500 copies and numbered to 1274. I don't think there's much to this one either. Oh, actually, this is a gatefold. Still not much to look at, just lyrics and a record. Black vinyl. And then we have the picture disc version that came out in '98. Still love this artwork. I love how they always kept like putting themselves on the album cover. It was just kind of, I don't know, I guess a lot of people, and to this day you would seem like a fucking snob if you tried to pull that off, but I don't know, it just shows that they had such an attitude. Obviously they were influenced quite a bit by Kiss and stuff like that. So I also have just a plain old CD version, and if you have an original copy of this, take note. Smell this paper, man. Oh, it just smells so good. Get a whiff of that. It just smells like icy and frosty. Love it. So then there's this... I'm a dork, I know. There's this limited version where it came with an etched jewel case. I hope you can see that. Other than that, nothing different about the version. Even has the great smelling paper. Yeah. So then they did this. We talked about it. Whatever. Black disc. Nothing special about this. Got some goofy ass band photos in here. And I just feel like this is where they stopped taking themselves so seriously. There's some really sloppy guitar work going on in this album, but the songwriting is pretty good. I'll give him that. And I really did like that I album that he did. It almost seemed like he wanted to go in that direction with Immortal, but he couldn't really get away with it. But it's a really cool record. And then Demonaz did that solo record a couple of years ago. March of the Norse. Really cool album. Highly influenced by Bathory. Yeah, so that's a great album. So then after that they did Damned in Black. Damned in Black is just a fucking train wreck. I haven't listened to that thing for 10 years. This album is even worse. I can't fucking stand it. I bought it because there's a DVD of it and I found it used for something like $6 or $7 or whatever. And then they broke up. And then a couple of years later they got back together and did All Shall Fall. And honestly that was a pretty good album. I haven't gotten around to picking that up yet. And I probably will. It's a pretty good album. Of the post Blizzard Beast albums, I think All Shall Fall is probably my favorite. It definitely melds some of the older styles. They sped it up. They gave it some brutality. They recorded a good album, and then they fucking broke up again. So then there was some blah 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 going on between the members of the band, and what wound up happening actually, from what I read in interviews, is that they had been trying to get Abath to go to rehab for so many years. He's apparently a drunk and an alcoholic, heroin addict too. I hate to be slinging around that kind of stuff, but I really empathize with their situation. They tried to keep him in the band and tried to help or to get him to get help, but he wouldn't. So then the turn of events was that Abath tried to go behind the backs of Demonaz and Abath and trademark the name Immortal so that he could take it away from Demonaz and Horde. And I just think that's fucked up. I think that's shitty. I can't believe he fucking did that. It just sounds like such a thing that an alcoholic heroin addict would do. So the judge, I guess, denied Abath doing that. And so then it was the final straw for Demonaz and Horde to kick out Abath. And I'm really happy about it. Basically, I'm happy that Demonaz and Horde get to continue their vision and don't have to deal with Abath getting in their way anymore. And now Abath is finding success with his terrible solo record, and everybody's happy. I can't wait to hear what Demonaz and Horde come up with now that Demonaz is playing guitar again for Immortal. So this has gone so long that the album is over with. I was trying to think if there's any other thoughts to wrap up. So yeah, I guess I feel like now that Demonaz is finally back playing guitar for Immortal, I feel like my original glee of finding out that Demonaz was in fact going to be playing on that next Immortal album when At the Howard Winter came out is finally being realized. You know, what has it been, 15, 16, 18 years since that thing came out? So I'm really happy to hear what's going on. That's my Immortal collection. I'm a big fucking fan. If any of that sounds interesting to you, please listen to Immortal. It's just fucking timeless, perfect, amazing black metal. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you next time.